Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel at VAG Technic Garage. So when I thought I literally used all the information, content about the B9 platform, Dave has sent me a video from America. We can watch the video together because it's quite interesting to maybe show you, explain you why things are going wrong sometimes. We are talking about an anomaly called LSPI, which is low speed pre-ignition. And he sent me a video from Dave's Auto Center, which is in America. So they have over 500,000 subscribers, so good job. I did watch a few other videos and I think the content is on high quality and the gentleman knows what he's talking about. In this case, I would like to compare the crack piston, what we have in our B9 S4, and the crack piston, what they have on the S5, what they have from the dealership. So a bit of a background story. We have the same issues in America or UK, hopefully not in the Europe, that the dealerships are just not sorting out the problem like, oh, you need a piston, we'll give you a piston, or you need something, we'll give you something what needs to be done. We will give you a new engine for £1 million and one lung and whatever organs from your body. So same story really. This is actually the engine from the B9 what we've been to the dealership to pick it up after they halfway stripped it down. And we did have a bit of a let's agree to disagree on the damage bore and stuff because I don't think it's damaged. But let's have a look at the video from Dave's Auto Center, which is 15 minutes long. The video is called Audi S5 Update, Piston Damage, LSPI. And I'll talk you through what do I think about it.
And this is all dark here, a lot of carbon. But you see how this here, we call that oil wash. Now, if that was a blown head gasket, it would be steam cleaned. It wouldn't be brown like that. It would be as clean as the aluminum here. But this is oil wash. So if you ever pull a plug out or you bore scope a hole and you see that, you're burning oil up through the rings. That's what's causing that. Just a tip.
Okay, so I already started the video after 3 minutes, so they have the cylinder head off and stuff, and he's comparing the all three cylinders there, which he's explaining like 2 of them are like built carbon, which means the fuel was burned efficiently, and the last one, which had the damage, is actually like brownish, so it's burning oil. There are, I think, 2 ways how to explain it, but let's continue.
Okay, everybody, I want to talk about LSPI.
LSPI.
How to think about it. Low speed pre-ignition. And what happens? And this is what happens. We blew a piston completely apart. It didn't damage the cylinder wall, which is nice because this is a nickel seal block. We really can't do anything with these.
He's saying it's a nickel block. It's some kind of a weird aluminium, and you have like normal liners, which are iron cast, I believe, because the magnet is holding on it. So, but it didn't damage the bore, which 99% when we have a cracked piston on these, the bore is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But let's continue. They have a blew up piston.
Really can't do anything with these holes except I'd have to re-sleeve that. I can do that, but the cylinder wall is going to be okay. Here's part of the stuff that we found in the oil pan. The control ring, part of the second ring, pieces of the piston. This happens under low.
So they have quite lots of stuff in the oil sump, so the piston literally go like big time. Luckily the bore's not damaged, what he mentioned, but I can see some parts of the piston rings and quite loads of big parts of the piston. But let's continue.
Under low speed load, normally when the engine is cold, so this is like you're taking off, the oil is not warmed up, so what happens? The oil is thick. You want your API rating to have an SP in it. Sam Paul, you want to have an SP rated oil. That oil is designed.
So I'm not sure how in America, with all these ratings, it's probably easy in Europe, but the gentleman is saying that there was a problem with the oil. Also in the first video with the S5, the owner who actually bought the car just recently and have issues straight away after someone done an oil change, they are sort of saying that the oil what was put into the engine caused the issue, which I don't think so, because when you do oil change, I don't think the piston will crack like in a couple of hours later because of an oil, but let's continue.
Designed for direct injected engines. That's how this happens. This bottom ring here, this is the oil ring. These holes here are designed that oil splash from the crank going around and around and around and around is splashing up on the inside of the piston, and it's allowing oil to get up on the cylinder wall. This second ring here, this ring here, is called the oil control ring. Now let me show you how thin this ring is. This ring has no tension on it. It's very flimsy. Boop, 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 boop.
I mean, not all piston rings are like that. Yeah, they need to be like, they need to move. The whole piston needs to have play inside the bore. Otherwise, things can go wrong very badly. I understand what he's saying with the oil ring, but you have to bear in mind that there is not like direct port spraying the oil everywhere. There is literally on each bore one spray jet which is constantly making like a flow, but the ring is there to lubricate actually the combustion chamber wall or the bore himself, and the second ring is there to actually wipe it down. I don't think that wrong oil will cause it. I understand what he's saying with the cold oil. I think he's right at that point, that obviously if the oil is too thick when it's cold, probably the piston ring will not take as much as when it's completely warm to temperature, when it's thin. But let's continue.
That really doesn't make a lot of tension on the cylinder wall. That tension on that ring doesn't really change with temperature. But what does change with temperature? Your oil viscosity. Oil's super thick when it's cold. This is why...
Well, super thick when it's cold. What do you mean by cold and what do you by super thick? Because I know these engines are described with 0W20 oil. Yeah. So we are running all the engines what we've done, what's leaving our workshop on 5W40, because I think the 0W20 is absolute water. So what kind of oil would you have to put in there? What will be like proper thick? 10W60? Don't know.
This is why we're finding this problem. That's why you want to make sure that you have an SP API grade oil. The oil's getting onto the cylinder wall like it's designed to. It's supposed to be scraped off by this oil control ring. Well, during cold drivability, when you first started up, the oil is so thick, it's kind of like, you know, if you put molasses syrup in your microwave for 30 seconds, it pours like water. If you put it in the fridge, you know, it won't even pour out of the bottle. It's the same idea.
Well, I understand what he's saying, but on the other way, like how retarded you gotta be to start the engine up and you floor it like straight away. I'm really hoping there's no people watching this channel doing that, guys.
Idea. So that thick oil gets past this second ring and it gets up here to the top ring, the compression ring. That's where your problem happens. The oil interacts with the fuel that has not atomized. The direct injection is being sprayed directly in the combustion chamber, and instead of getting an atomization of the fuel, which is like a fog, you're getting droplets. Those droplets go right on the side of the...
Okay, so what he's saying is that the oil will cause a problem because the middle ring will not wipe off all the oil from the walls of the combustion chamber, which means if the fuel with air is actually in and is ready to explode, which will create the mist before it will fire it up, it can mix with the oil which is stuck onto the walls, and it can get in between the piston ring, which can cause explosion between the piston rings. Easy way say.
On the side of the cylinder wall, they combine with that oil and they poof, they combust. And it causes an explosion, and this is what the explosion looks like. This here is combustion. See this carbon? This carbon here between the second ring and the top ring, right here, this dark carbon right here. You got a little bit of it here. You had some of it here, you can kind of see where it blew out. And you're getting some here between the second ring and the top ring, this carbon here. This is because oil is coming past that second.
Right now I'm a bit lost because he's saying the carbon is between the second and first ring, but the first ring is the seal ring for all the explosion in the combustion chamber. Of course, there's a small gap because it's a ring, and the second ring again should hold it so it's not going through onto the oil ring and stuff, which is not always 100% because the piston is slightly moving, how it's going up and down at high speed, and it won't be 100% efficient to wipe all the oil out from the combustion chamber. That's why the engine have an oil consumption, because you can't wipe it like it will be bone dry.
It's coming past that second ring. The fuel droplets combined with that oil, and there's an explosion in there, and it literally blows metal clean apart. I know it's hard to believe, but that's what's going on here.
It's not hard to believe, but I think the sequence was a bit upside down, especially on the S5, at least with the experience what we have, because I must say we work on Audi cars for last, let's say, 9 years. All of them are direct injections. Most of them failed on loads of different things, but we never have like a crack piston literally until the B9 platform start coming in. So I also realize it's mostly because of the part number. The first B9s V6 TFSI engine has actually different part number, and after a couple of months they upgraded to a different number. I don't know what they changed, but so far all the pistons which are cracking were the early 17 models, and then they changed it. So if we're doing the job, we can get actually cheaper Vossner pistons with rings and everything, which are forged. We can compare the standard piston with the forged one, just to show you what I think is the problem with why it's happening. Also with the low speed pre-ignition, I was watching videos from 034 Motorsport, which are literally, if you know, the guys in America doing all the tunes for these platforms. The B9 is a very popular platform right now because you can get the car sort of cheap. It's easy tunable. You can get some silly BHP out of it just by putting a bit turbo and a few upgraded stuff on the engine. And there have a few people complaining what I've seen in the video, like, oh, they don't want to tune the car, which is messing up their business a bit because of the reliability of the engine. I'm not saying the engine is bad. I don't think it is bad. I personally think this is one of the best concepts what Audi, Volkswagen or Porsche done in a very long time. It's so easy to work on. The parts are sort of cheap to get. You can get loads of aftermarket parts for it. You can literally drop the engine down in a couple of hours and everything is accessible. Of course, they have problems. The rocker arms are failing. Nobody knows why. But we do quite loads of them. I'll show you after the work how many rocker arms I've got in the back room. I'm keeping them in the buckets just to show you the amount what we've done so far. But what I'm trying to say with the 034 Motorsport, the guy's done a video on this pre-ignition, especially low speed pre-ignition, like why it's happening. And I would probably agree more why it can happen with 034 than with Dave from the YouTube video we've just seen. I'm not saying Dave done something wrong. It's an explanation how he sees things. I'm explaining how I see things, and maybe not a million people will explain a million different ways how they see the things. Yeah, we're just all probably talking from our experience what we're seeing during this. But the reason why I will agree with 034 idea why it's happening, there's a problem in between the steering wheel and the seat from time to time. The reason for that is we know these engines are super efficient, they have very high compression ratio, and they are capable to boost very quickly from low RPM, which means the turbo is basically a twin scroll, so every single time from one or the other cylinder head you have efficient exhaust gases going onto the turbine, which can spin it to good RPM to build up the boost even when the engine is running like 15, 16, 1700 RPM. So what people usually do, what I've seen many times, and definitely don't do it even if the car's warm up, they have the car in drive and they try to push the engine from low RPM. What will happen is the only way how to actually make the engine go from low RPM very quickly to high RPM is boost and fuel and loads of fuel. The problem is that the high pressure fuel pump is mechanical, so how quickly the engine is spinning, how much pressure is building, so more high RPM you have, more pressure you have on the high pressure fuel pump, and that's the whole point. So when you have low pressure in the rail and you want to put loads of fuel, the injector have to do a long cycle, which means it will open for longer because there's not enough pressure to inject the fuel into the combustion chamber, which means the spray is not as efficient like on high RPM when you have higher pressure in the rail, and the injector can just do like zip and it will literally do a nice mist in the combustion chamber, which is effective, and obviously you're not making as much pressure onto the pistons and all the components on the engine. So like I said, we have loads of people here, even with RS5s, B9s, S4s, B9s, even R8s, V10s. And I don't know why people try to drive them sporty in low RPM, which you can hear the engine is struggling, you can hear the high pressure fuel pump, how it's making the noise and everything because it struggled to do the pressure was requested. So if you have a high performance vehicle and you want to drive it as a high performance vehicle, you need to go above 3000 RPM, end of. So also what the 034 is saying, which I agree again, lower RPM you have, more you're gonna put the engine under pressure. The combustion chamber is not emptying as quick like on 1500 RPM as it is on 4000 RPM. So the whole combustion chamber is basically overheating, which is not making any good to the piston rings and everything what's in there. So it's definitely better to use the top end, yeah, than be struggling from the low RPM. So also in this video, I want to talk you through why I think as well this is one of the best engines at the moment on the market, at least from Audi. I don't really know about the BM Merc. Mercedes is doing mostly very small engines right now. Don't know why, with loads of hybrid system, not a big fan. But yeah, this engine is halfway stripped down. We have the cylinder heads and stuff, but let's just walk around and show you what I think, why it's one of the best engines. Okay guys, so B9, this is S4, S5 engine, code CWG. Reason why I think this is one of the best engine, because it's pretty simple. Yeah, it's a hot turbo setup, so whatever you want to do from the top, even if the engine is in the car, in the engine bay, of course the carriers are removed now and the loom is off, but you have the loom on the top like that, and it's quite easy accessible to everything what you want to do from the top. Of course the chain are from the back, but you only have two chains, which is going onto the sprockets and onto the crankshaft, and I think it's something what's indestructible. We didn't see the chains or the tensioner failed yet. The only thing what's failing mostly on these engines are the rocker arms. So these still have the old shape rocker arms with the small needle bearings, and they are so small that with the RPM, if they're not lubricated properly, they can overheat. The ring can actually expand, or the bearings inside will seize up. It can damage your camshaft, or it can even fall off, like you seen in the previous video, anywhere in the head, damage the camshaft, damage the other camshaft, even make a hole in the cylinder head. It can damage the spring on the valve, whatever. So as soon as it will go, it's quite tricky what can happen. So that's the main thing what's failing on these engines. The other thing is, as a common fault, let's say, but I would call it more as a prevention service, which nobody's doing, because there is no interval on the water pump, thermostat, the thermostat unit, or any of these components. If you have a normal timing belt driven engine, like a 2-liter diesel, you should do it every 5 years, no matter on the mileage, but nobody is doing it on this car for some reason, because it's a lifetime. So as soon as it's end of life, you gotta do it, but maybe it's too late because you're on holiday somewhere in Spain and the water pump start leaking, and what are you gonna do then? So the main reason, because we live in 21st century and to make stuff from plastic is cheaper than from anything else, is the plastic himself. Unfortunately, it will not last as long as any metal parts, and the plastic is twisting, it can disintegrate, and it will start leaking coolant. The water pump basically can fail on the preheating thing, which is here, that can get stuck, and that is going to the solenoid, which is on the top of the engine over here. So if you have sign low coolant, overheating or something, the solenoid can be faulty, which is controlled by vacuum, and it's not literally operating the preheating shield on the water pump, and you need to replace it. So this is something was not expensive. You need to tilt the front end. The parts are a couple of £100. It's most labor involved. But also, let's say you want to upgrade the turbo. That's why these engines are so popular for tune, because look, where's the turbo? You have 4 nuts each side, few pipes going into them, and you can just remove the turbo in probably an hour or two. And whatever leak you have inside the V or in the middle, it's quite easily resealed. Like, all you have to do is take the turbo, get a few gaskets on them, and just you're right in the middle, no issue at all. So from that point of view, I do really like how the engine is built. However, the early models have these faults with the rocker arms. And also, it's always 50-50. I personally think it really depends on the previous oil intervals and changes. The chain can actually stretch to the width because of the camshaft adjusters. It's not like they're faulty, but we do have few right here. And we are keeping them because you can actually take them apart and you can only replace the sprocket, which we are in process of making it work, and we will replace this probably dural aluminium, which is quite soft material. You can see how the material is missing from the sprocket, and that's get the chain actually stuck into it, and we will be replacing it for some goody material, but that will be probably in September. I'll keep you updated in the videos. So those are the critical things what can happen to your B9 engine, I would say. Yeah, the RSS have extra cooler for the turbos because it's a twin turbo, so we have that exchanger unit somewhere here underneath the headlight, which is cooled with coolant, and from time to time it's leaking. So again, it was all sorted mostly after 2019, but guys, if you have a look at the engine, I think there is not a simple engine than this. It's so easy to work on. There's nothing extra what's needed. The whole chain setup is quite easy. The engine block literally has no gaskets inside like the 3-liter supercharged or 4.2 V8s. It's just easy. You have the main block, bottom plate, oil sump, that's it, arrivederci. Easy. Also, like I said, the parts for these engines, you can get loads of aftermarket forged things, you can get hybrid turbos, you can get big turbos. Whatever you need as a tuning platform, I think this is one of the best platforms for money and the power output you can get, efficiency, fuel consumption. It's a 4-wheel drive, so yeah, one day if I have the money, I definitely want to get a B9 or at least something with this engine and try to push it a bit. So that's my opinion. If you have some kind of a different experience, definitely leave me a comment. And in this video, like I said, this is the engine from Audi what was picked up. We just put the cylinder back on and stuff. It was waiting for the parts. So we're going to strip it fully down. We will have a look at the piston, which is damaged. And once it's outside, I will talk you through what I think, what happened in here, what's happening in most of the cases, and why I think Dave from America, I don't want to say he wasn't right. The truth is somewhere in the middle always, yeah, but I'm just going to tell you what I think. That will be better. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay guys, so I'm stripping the engine slowly. As you can see on these pistons, it's not the best pistons, but this one here, you can see how it's washed out at that spot. So I think the piston will be cracked somewhere over there. I don't think it will be fully damaged like you seen on the video from the America with the S5, but I definitely think it will be cracked through all the piston rings and all the pressure what should stay in the combustion chamber when it's going to ignite the fuel with the air. It's not actually staying in there and doing the actual work, but it's leaking through a crack into the block, and that's why that's actually washed out like that. Okay guys, so the engine is stripped down. It took us a couple of hours. The history is repeating himself again. Audi dealership is not draining out the oil before we strip the engine down. So again, oil all over the floor, loving it. It's all sorted. It is what it is. But what I want to show you, we finally stripped the engine down, and we do have a piston, the problematic piston, what you see. So this is the spot which is washed out, and like it was in the Dave's video, loop, it's broken exactly the same way. So I didn't see exact detail footage from this video, what they stripped down the S5, but I'll show you a small detail on the piston, why I think it cracked. I'm not saying the LSPI is like some kind of a myth, which is not happening in the engine. Of course, it can happen, but you gotta be proper retarded to push the engine from first minute when it's stone cold. And like Dave said, the oil has different grade when it's completely cold, when it's completely warm. So you shouldn't be pushing the engine when it's not warm up properly, because the lubricating oil is not doing the job. So also, like he was saying in the video, of course, you can't just put any kind of oil in the vehicle these days because direct injection and this and that. So I agree with that. However, I'll show you the piston, what I think, why it happened, and why I think it will be happening on the early models. So these vehicles, I think, if you're gonna call dealership, there are like 3 or 4 different part numbers for these pistons. Of course, you can always have only the latest number, which means all the previous ones, they done some upgrades to it, small, not noticeable upgrades, and you just can't get the old numbers. So this was again 17 plate car, which means it was registered at 2017, but the year manufacture is probably before 2017, which means this was probably the first part number of a piston which was manufactured for that engine. And from the experience what we have, all of them are having the same issues. So this is the piston, guys, where you can tell. So I believe this clean area is because when I took it out, of course, there were all the piston rings, but this is actually the middle ring, which is wiping off the oil after the oil ring when it's lubricating. And like I said, you don't have like a direct oil feed to the piston. So the only way how it's getting lubricated is through these small holes on the side for the oil ring. When it's completely in the bottom, the spray jet will literally spray the oil. It's constantly spraying, and it's just gonna wipe the oil everywhere in the cylinder. So the oil rings have no damage. There's almost no carbon in them, which is in good condition. So I believe the lubrication was fine. However, the middle ring shouldn't be like this, because it should look like this. So it should be like a spring, and this is actually damaged because of the piston. So what happened is how this bit actually cracked, like it fell off like this. It bent the piston ring, and literally long term, how it was stuck there, it's overgapping on the end. So definitely not good. Also, what I want to show you is that you can see that the material where it literally cracked off is like black, oily. Well, it's not nice and shiny like on the small bit which already broke off. So the problem was there for a bit of a time until it failed, so there was a low compression. So also on the other side, as you can tell, same situation. But what I want to show you is that, by my opinion, because every single piston what I've seen cracked on these B9s is cracking in the same spot. And I think this is a weak spot, look. Took. Yeah, so if you have to compare it with Vossner piston, which we have here, see for yourself. See the difference? Or maybe see the difference? So I don't understand why they try to make the piston super light when it's fragile and it just can't stand the power and everything. So the main thing what I want to show you, and what Dave didn't show probably you guys, I'm not saying he done something wrong or anything, but I just want to clarify what's going on here. Because if you have a look, I'm not sure if you can see it. I will try to get some kind of a sharp pointer. I'm not sure if you're gonna see it, but there is a hairline crack from here to there and into the point when it literally broke off. So I think, because every single piston what we've done so far have exactly the same crack from this edge to the side skirting of the piston down there. So I personally think that this is the weak spot of the piston, and that's why it's literally cracking to the weakest point, to the pin for the conrod. And like I said, all of the pistons what so far we had cracked exactly the same way, in exactly the same spot. So the LSPI can be happening. I'm not saying that it can't, but you know, we're working for some time on these engines, and in 9 years, until we start working on the B9s, we've never seen a cracked piston this way. So I will stick to my theory that this is a poor design, the early ones, and unfortunately it can crack. Yeah. Of course, what they're saying in the video, what 034 saying in the video, with the cold engine, you shouldn't be pushing it. Also, 034 is very smart, like don't push the engine from low RPM. Why will you do it? So it is like probably many things, put them together, and this is the result. But yeah, the LSPI is definitely something what is happening, I'm not saying, but in this case, I think it's just a poor design again. So everything what you see on the table is basically a common fault on the early B9s. The later ones, I think, sort out most of the issues. It's like tradition from Audi. If they're doing a new platform like the V8s, BBK, like the V10s, like the 2.5s, there's always some common faults on the first models. 2 liters, 1.8, same problem, piston rings, pistons, oil consumption, and the list go on. And they literally always sort out all the issues on the facelift models. So that's the situation. We have the Vosner kit here already. We have everything here for the engine except the conrods. So we will be building a forged engine. However, the forged bits what we buying from Vosner and ZRP, they are not direct fit, because center to center conrod is actually 155 millimeters, and the problem is, I'm not sure if you're gonna see it, but the piston for the RS5 from Vosner is basically flat, and the S4 have this small step up in the middle. But obviously the whole problem is that if it's the same length, the part of the piston from Vosner is actually hitting the cylinder head, so you all need to get a shorter conrod from a different model, or you have to adjust the piston or do something with it, because if you're going to put it together, you won't be able to turn the engine because part of the piston will be hitting the cylinder heads. So it is definitely interesting to see what's going on 2017 cars. Also, we have to take it like the car is 7-8 years old almost, and unfortunately the faults which are common will appear more and more often on these until they sort it. Yeah, rocker arms, not even saying. You can see these needles, and look, it's already getting sticky, and there is a play in the rocker arm. So part of the job always we are replacing these, because you can see probably the play in the bearings. So it is mental. But on the other hand, luckily the engine is very simple, like I said, and there's not many things where you need to be replaced. And also all the stuff we want to get for it, like upgraded, is available. So yeah, I personally think it's a good platform, easy to tune and everything, and it's quite affordable to buy at this moment as well. So yeah, that's all from the video, guys. In the next video we will continue with the build. Maybe we will be doing something else, I don't know, depends on the parts, because currently it's quite pain in the ass to get everything what we need. And we'll see in the next video. Thank you for watching, and take care for now. See ya.